Welcome back and welcome to my May wrap up. I suggest you grab yourselves a cup of tea because it's going to be a long one. So, as you know from my May TBR, I was attempting to do an A to Z readathon, reading books covering every letter in the alphabet. And the good news is I managed to read 26 books this month. I managed to get through all the books that I wanted to for the month of May. My TBR changed a little bit just because a couple of books came along that I really wanted to read, and so I slotted those in. I crossed off some off the list and then added those in instead, so I still managed to hit the letters. And if you remember, I didn't have one for X, so X was a bit of a wild card, so there was always going to be room for a little something extra. So I'm going to take you through what I read for each letter, so I will try and be as quick as possible. If you saw my last video, you will know that I read the To All the Boys I've Loved Before trilogy by Jenny Han, and they cover letters A and B. Yes, this is how high my TBR pile is. Sorry, my wrap-up pile is. My TBR pile is quite high as well. Filming that one next. Look out for a big long June TBR. They just get longer and longer, don't they? Okay, so the first book that I read for A was All the Boys I've Loved, no, Always and Forever, Lara Jean by Jenny Han. This is the third book in the trilogy, and if you want to know more about that, my last video was about this trilogy, so give that a check out. And then for B, this is where we've got To All the Boys I've Loved Before by Jenny Han. This is the first book in the trilogy. Then for C, I read The Trouble with Goats and Sheep by Joanna Cannon. That one I had to return back to the library because there was someone waiting on it, so that's why I don't have a copy of that one. And then for D, I read Sweet Bitter by Stephanie Danler. I listened to this one on audiobook, so again, I don't have a physical copy to show you. Then for E, I read Lobsters by Tom Ellen and Lucy Iverson. Now this is quite interesting because this cover in the US is very different, and the book also has a different title. It's called A Totally Awkward Love Story. But I actually ended up downloading the audiobook. I bought the audiobook so that I could listen to this during our road trip at the weekend, and the audiobook has the US title but this UK cover, which is very strange. I am planning a video on US versus UK titles and covers soon, so this one definitely will be featuring. Then for G, I read, sorry, no, we're only on F. I read The Fall of Butterflies by Andrea Portas. Again, I've got the physical copy, checked out the library, but I also checked out the audiobook, and so I did a bit of switching back and forth between this one, and I just think this cover is absolutely beautiful. Then for G, we're now actually up to G, I read Greatest Hits by Laura Barnett. This one comes out on the 15th of June, but they sent me this proof copy a while ago, which is why I made it a priority to read it during May, and I just finished this one yesterday, so look out for my review of that coming very soon. Then for H, this was one of the first books that I read for the readathon, and that was How to Make Out by Brianna Shrum. Again, I have a review of this one on my blog, which will be linked below, so you can read my thoughts on it there, but I did really love this book. It was a great start to the month. Then for where am I up to? I read One Italian Summer by Kerry Stainton. I read this on my Kindle because I had a copy from NetGalley, and again, I have already reviewed this on my blog, so if you want to know more about this one, go and have a look at the blog post, which will be linked down below. For J, I read Jess Chunk and the Road Trip to Infinity by Kristen Elizabeth Clark. This one, I wish that I'd read this one before we went on our road trip on the weekend, because they go to quite a few places that we went to on our road trip, even stopping for gas in some of the same places that we stopped. So this was totally enjoyable, and I literally read this in one sitting. It was a nice quick read, but I was so enjoying it because I could relate to all the places. So look out for a review of this one coming soon. Then for I've got my list here, keep losing my place in the alphabet. For K, I read Boys Don't Knit by Tom Easton. You might remember me mentioning this one in my 7 reviews of the 7 books I read during Bout of Books. So if you want to know more about this one, then you can watch that video, but I did love this one, it was great. And then also in that video I have, for M, I've just realised I've missed out L, we'll come back to it. For M, I Woke Up Dead at the Mall by Judy Sheehan. This one, again, I talk about in that video, so you can watch that one to hear my thoughts on this one. Again, somewhere I can relate to because it's set at the Mall of America. And I like it there. And then for L, which I just skipped, I read The Cafe in Fir Tree Park. Again, I had a copy from NetGalley on my Kindle, so I read The Cafe in Fir Tree Park, which is by Katie Lovell. I have a review of this one on my blog, so go and have a look at that one if you want to find out more about this one. That was such a summery romantic read. It was perfect time of year to be reading that. I read it in the sunshine, and I would suggest that you do the same. Then for N, I listened to the audiobook of We Are Okay by Nina LaCour. It's really hard, a lot of people have been finding this really hard to say we are not okay. I don't know why, but this was quite a quick listen. I downloaded the audiobook from my library and listened to this one, and I have a review coming up on my blog soon, so keep your eyes peeled for that one. Then for O, I read Asking For It by Louise O'Neill. This one, again, I talked about in my 7 reviews of the 7 books I read during Bout of Books, so go and check out that video if you want to hear more about this one. Then for P, I read P.S. I Still Love You, which is the 2nd book in Jenny Han's trilogy that I did the video about, that I uploaded last week. So have a look at that video if you want to know more about this trilogy. Then for Q, I listened to the audiobook of this one actually, and that's Queen of Hearts by Colleen Oakes. I'm actually really pleased I listened to the audiobook of this one because it had an English narrator, and obviously it's about Alice in Wonderland, and I kind of picture Alice in Wonderland as being a place where people have English accents, and so listening to the audiobook was really good, but I really enjoyed this one. And I mean, it's quite a quick read. You can see the print's quite big, and I listened to the audiobook all in one go, but I definitely want to read the next book in this trilogy, but it's not on audiobook. And once you start a series on audiobook with the same narrator, then you kind of need to finish it on audiobook. I don't know, what do you think? Let me know. Then for, where am I up to? PQR. I read Noteworthy by Riley Redgate. This is also in my 7 books in 7 days mini reviews video, because I read this one during Bout of Books as well. I was so looking forward to reading this one, and I will also have the review of this one up on my blog, I think tomorrow, so have a look out for that one. Then for S, I read The Best of Adam Sharp by Graham Simpson. I listened to this one on audiobook, and I did originally in my TBR only have an ebook copy of this one, but since then I went to an event with Graham Simpson, and so I got my book signed, and so that's why I have a physical copy of the book. And this is the US cover, which is quite different from the UK cover again. Then we are up to T. I read Every Last Word by Tamara Ireland Stone. This is also in my 7 mini reviews for 7 books in 7 days video, so go and check out that if you want to know more about that one. And for U, I read The Upside of Unrequited by Becky Albertalli. I actually posted a review of this one on my blog yesterday, but I had to take this book back to the library because somebody was waiting for it, so I don't have a copy to show you, but I love this book, and as I say, there was a review on the blog yesterday, so go and have a look at that one. Then we're up to V, which was The Forever House by Veronica Henry. I cheated slightly on this one because I knew that this was going to be a May read, and my lovely guest reviewer, my mum, actually read this one because she's a big Veronica Henry fan, and so there is a review of this one on the blog if you want to go and check it out, and that is a guest review, but it still counts towards the readathon because it was on the May TBR. Then for W, that was my, nope, we're just up to W, that wasn't the wild card, X was the wild card. W, I listened to the audiobook of Good in Bed by Jennifer Weiner. I talked a little bit about this one in my Jennifer Weiner video, which I posted last week. I read 3 of her books and watched one of her films in the past few weeks or so. So I decided to make a video all about this new author that I'd discovered, which is very exciting. And then for X, it was a wildcard entry, and I actually read on my Kindle and on audiobook When Dimple Met Rishi by Sandhya Menon. This one is all over Twitter, all over YouTube. People are talking about it so much. I had a proof copy of it, and it took me until now to read it. I should have read it sooner, but I really enjoyed this one, and my review of this one will actually be up on the blog very shortly, so look out for that one there. And then for Y, I read The Year of Yes by Shonda Rhimes. I love this this book. I actually downloaded it on audiobook. Seen a theme here. I listen to a lot of things on audiobook just because I've got things to do around the house, and it means that I can keep reading at the same time. But I like having the physical book as well, because I think that this one will be something that I will go back and read again, because I really did enjoy it. And then for Z, exhausted now, I read Falling Into Place by Amy Zhang. I listened to this one on audiobook, you saw it coming, and this one was quite different from what I was expecting, but I think this is one of the ones that I read during Battle Book, so that should be in my video as well. So there you have it. I completed every letter of the alphabet in some way. You can see that some of them are through words in the title and some of them are through the author's name or surname, but I am really pleased that I read all of those books. I don't think I could do it every month. I don't think I could manage to get through, well, I read 25 books every single month, but it was definitely fun, and I'm really pleased that I kind of watched the video for the original A to Z readathon, which is linked in my May TBR. If you didn't see what I was going to read, then definitely go and watch my May TBR video and see how it compares to my May wrap up. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts about what you read in May, or anything that I've listed that you've read, and I will be back with my June TBR video next, so keep an eye out for that one, and if you want to make sure you don't miss it, then do subscribe. I'd love to have you on board, and if you enjoyed watching this video, do give it a thumbs up, and I will see you with my June TBR. Bye.